Welcome back to The Ambassadors. I'm thrilled to dive into today's topic with you. Let's get right into it.
Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping straight into a really fascinating devotional today from Ambassador David F. Nwaifuolu's Ambassadors Daily Banquets. Now, the overarching theme here is pretty bold. It's called I Am Redeemed for Signs and Wonders. But what's so interesting is that instead of focusing on, flashy, spontaneous miracles, this text actually zeroes right in on the daily grind. It's all about how consistent routines are the actual blueprint for supernatural power. So let's unpack exactly how this ministry maps that out. Right out of the gate, we need to ask you the very same question the author uses to challenge his readers. Are you disciplined? Or are you just kind of occasional in your walk with God? It's a heavy question, right? The text uses this to set up a classic problem and solution dynamic. The problem? A sporadic, on-again, off-again approach to faith. And the solution, which honestly forms the entire backbone of this message, is disciplined consistency. By confronting us with a direct audit of our own habits, the author instantly moves us away from high-level theology and makes it deeply personal. To really get what the author is arguing, we have to look at how he defines consistency. And this is key. The text explicitly says consistency is not about perfection, it's about persistence. I love that, because it totally lowers the barrier to entry, doesn't it? It's acknowledging that, hey, results might not happen overnight, but persistent, faithful alignment is what literally keeps the channel open for God's power to flow. Actually, scratch the idea of never making a mistake. It's really just about that steady, daily return to the source. It treats spiritual consistency almost like physics. Keep the alignment right, and the power just inevitably flows. To back this up, the text points to a major historical anchor from the book of Acts, specifically chapter 11, verse 26. The argument being made here is that the early believers over in Antioch weren't given the name Christians because they pulled off one massive spectacular miracle. No, they earned that title because they consistently lived out a Christ-like lifestyle every single day. The author is stressing that genuine spiritual recognition doesn't come from isolated, flashy events. It comes from a totally unwavering, continuous way of life. And that history lesson brilliantly highlights a major contrast the author sees in the modern church. He points out that momentary excitement and sporadic prayer are huge weaknesses today, riding the emotional roller coaster. The goal instead is enduring power that's fueled by daily fellowship. The argument is basically that treating your spiritual disciplines like a light switch you just flick on and off is a recipe for erratic results. The whole devotional is a push to trade those fleeting emotional highs for the rock-solid power of daily habit. Now, what's really fascinating is how the text points to Jesus himself as the absolute ultimate model for this kind of consistency. His life wasn't random. It was structured around deeply ingrained habits. He prayed regularly, he walked in obedience daily, ministered faithfully, and stayed completely yielded. The really compelling argument here is that his miracles didn't just pop out of nowhere. They naturally flowed from this highly structured, consistent life. It frames Jesus not just as someone to worship, but as a literal, practical blueprint for your everyday routine. So you're probably wondering, what exactly are these daily habits we're supposed to be doing? Well, the text doesn't leave us guessing. It lists 4 very specific foundational disciplines: prayer, obedience, holiness, and faith. The message is clear. You can't just want signs and wonders. You have to actively build these 4 pillars. Just like the early apostles who are all in all the time, the reader is challenged to live out this specific 4-part framework every single day. No days off. Okay, so what's the ROI, the return on investment, for actually sticking to this? The devotional makes some pretty big guarantees, 4 distinct outcomes to be exact: guidance, protection, provision, and supernatural favor. The text sets up a very strict cause and effect relationship. If you put in the daily work with those 4 pillars we just talked about, you are promised these 4 tangible results. They aren't framed as just lucky breaks or random blessings, though the expected, guaranteed yield of a disciplined walk. But here's where it gets super interesting. This doesn't just stay up in the clouds as abstract theology, it moves right into a highly practical digital onboarding funnel. Step 1 is a specific prayer of salvation to confess, but right after that, they integrate modern resources. Step 2 directs you to grab an ebook called Understanding Born Again off the Seller platform. Then Step 3 pushes you to another ebook on prayer and fasting. It's a really modern, proactive approach to ministry, immediately giving the reader digital tools to lock in those new daily habits. Once a reader is fully onboarded, the text introduces this massive organizational goal, Operation 500 Million Souls for Christ. Talk about a huge vision, right? And they break participation down into 3 super actionable avenues. First, you could be a prayer partner, committing to daily intercession. Second, you could step up as a volunteer missionary for short or long-term service. Or third, you can be a kingdom investor, fueling the vision financially with consistent giving. So no matter what your capacity is, they've structured a very specific role for you in this global initiative. To support a vision that big, the ministry has built an incredibly extensive digital ecosystem. They use WhatsApp for highly specialized groups. We're talking everything from midnight prayer to a tongues declarations group and even a dedicated business tycoon group. It's a brilliant way to use the phone in your pocket to maintain traditional spiritual consistency. Add in Telegram for podcasts, plus an active presence on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube, and you've got this interconnected web of communities designed to keep people engaged and empowered literally every single day. And the sheer scale of this operation is mind-blowing. The ministry actually coordinates international midnight prayer across 22 different global time zones. To put that into perspective, they are organizing a synchronized worldwide habit that connects 6 p.m. in New York to midnight in Nigeria, all the way to 7 a.m. in the Philippines. It's taking the core message of the devotional, daily consistency, and applying it logistically to create a literal, global network of nonstop prayer.
As the document wraps up, the tone shifts to a final, very urgent note. It clearly states, "Prepare your heart and life for the glorious return of Jesus Christ." This entirely reframes everything we've just talked about. All the daily habits, the ebooks, the global prayer networks. It places all of it into an eschatological context. This consistency isn't just about getting earthly perks like provision or protection. The author is framing it as the absolute necessary preparation for the return of Christ.
So the text leaves us with a definitive choice, and honestly, it's a profound final thought to chew on. Will you decide to walk consistently or just emotionally? We've unpacked how this devotional systematically challenges believers to swap out sporadic emotions for persistent daily discipline, all backed by this staggering digital community. It is a highly structured, demanding approach. So having seen this entire framework, how do you view the mechanics of persistence in your own life? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep learning, and
Thank you for watching. Please share, like, and comment. Your host, God7, David F. Wafulu.